So our buddy, Aura Channeler Chris, just displayed his rather limited knowledge of the Pokemon franchise. Well, I wouldn't want to be thrown in a world full of man-eating monsters. You know. Well, sure. I believe it.
Chris, you're perfectly protected,
Lucario said, trying to convince his trainer.
Not even a full team will be able to touch your hair.
Oh, I know. You know, people live in fear, I think, of people touching their hair. You know, that's a real sign of just. Some people say you can be killed by having someone else touch your hair without your consent. That's fucking terrifying. I suppose you are not ordinary, Chris pointed out. You're a genius, man. Fate does have its ways to give people anything. I should know by now, except not the part where it makes me get involved in a universal conflict against a super evil entity, he complained. And never seen him do that before. And I can't back out from it because I just know I'll get into trouble either way. I've seen enough examples in TV that wouldn't make sense in real life otherwise. Despite his trainer's constant nagging about that, Lucario didn't complain at all. Good for you, Lucario. You might be a murderer, but at least you're less annoying. It gave him a huge opportunity to make his trainer proud all the same, and the day when Chris would fight alongside him was a possibility now that he had obtained PSI powers that still needed some work to do. Chris had all the right to voice out his opinions until a certain point would be reached.
Well,
Lucario trailed off.
It would be far worse if I wasn't around.
Ellipsis. Chris stared. It's like the definite answer for all my problems is to just have you by my side, he said dully. Really, I expect an event where you're depowered to make things fair to me. It's how RPGs usually tend to be. You're the taste of power before I'm stripped of the huge advantage. Yeah, I really hope that happens, actually. Otherwise, this is going to be a very one-sided adventure. You know, they just travel through each land. Lucario just, you know, fucking decapitating Koopas and, you know, I don't know, Bokoblins and the whatever the fuck those things are called in Kirby. But actually, if you decapitated them, you know, they wouldn't. You know, you just destroy them because they're basically just walking heads with arms. So you know, they wouldn't hold up so good. You know, you couldn't really say you decapitated them so much as you just kind of blasted them away into ash and nothingness. Well, no, not nothingness, just ash. Just ash, really.
Perish the thought, Chris, Lucario said. At least I'm swift and athletic enough to avoid damage. Not that anything in this world has damaged me so far. Wait, I won't get depowered, he said, serious. I shall demonstrate you that the full extent of my abilities now I have a reason to use them.
Chris thought back on the crater. Are you kidding me? I know how powerful you can be, he said, making Lucario widen his eyes. I don't want to see that full extent of your powers just yet. Or ever! What if you end up blowing up the planet at full strength? You made that crater with just an aura sphere back then. Lord knows what you can do if Master Hand lets you use a final smash. Lucario smiled at the thought of using a smash ball, but he gasped when Chris glared up at him. I'll be careful, Lucario said. You know, I've said good things about the guy in the past, even though he's a total fucking maniac. But he's also like a real sycophant, you know. He does nothing but fucking cozy up to Chris and just I'll obey your every command and stuff, you know. It's just kind of like, yeah, stop. You know, why are you so totally, unconditionally devoted to the fucker? He's one of the most annoying characters in fictional history, and yet you still fucking dote over him like he's your fucking child? I don't know. Whatever. Just... Good, because I'm inevitably expected to grow stronger without you hogging all the experience for yourself. Chris said, sighing. I'm crazy prepared to know what to expect from this amazing journey across the worlds and whatnot, but I'm not crazy prepared to cope with all of it right in front of my own face. Letting you do all the grunt work will come back to bite my own butt in the event that you're not available. He shrugged.
Chris, please, stop being so negative about this,
Lucario said, kneeling down and failing to be at eye level with his trainer.
Everything will be okay.
What? So all of a sudden he's so fucking tall, and Chris is so fucking stunted that even when he kneels down, he isn't even at eye level with Chris. I thought he was like 6 foot, or 6 foot something. You know, he's not like, what was that guy called? Who was like, you know, Robert Wadlow. You know, the guy who was like 8'5" or something. You know, he you know, if you kneel down, he's gonna be like at Chris's, like, you know, chest. At the highest. Why all of a sudden can he not make eye contact with him? I suppose, you know, the only correct response is my favourite word, whatever. The boyish teen looked worried. I'll try, he muttered. Nagging too much is bound to annoy others, you don't say. And I want to make new friendships with people in other worlds. He shook his head. I'm not so sure myself, Lucario. I need time to cope with it all. His large Pokemon pulled him up to his side, feeling waves of uncertainty in Chris's aura.
You have all the time to get used to it, he reassured him. I'll be there with you.
Thank you so much, Chris muttered, hugging his Pokemon from the right side. As opposed to the wrong side? Ho-ho! Ha-ha! Hee-hee! Lucario growled deeply in appreciation and nuzzled Chris's head with the tip of his nose. Chris chuckled, which is incidentally also the noise he made when Lucario rubbed him actually with the tip of his penis. But we won't go into that. That's for another fanfiction with a rating slightly higher than T. Let's do our best to keep Ness safe from the army. The Aura Pokemon heard the 3 children coming up to them before they would go to sleep. Maybe it was Lucario who said that, but frankly, I don't give a fuck. Frankly, my dear.
Let's rest for tonight, you guys, Paula said, hands behind her back. Tomorrow is going to be a very arduous day.
Suddenly, Lucario's senses alerted him that someone was trying to read his thoughts. Knowing full well where the source came from, he growled and his aura flared up, creating a mental shield that also went to Chris's self and caused him to gasp when his aura was brought out by Lucario. The Aura Pokemon saw Ness and Paula grabbing their heads in pain, worrying Juff right after.
What were you trying to do?
Growled Lucario at the 2 children, disappearing his aura while still keeping the mental block on.
Don't act innocent! I sensed your minds trying to pierce through our thoughts!
What? Chris said, shocked, staring at Ness and Paula. Good gosh! Ness grunted. I wasn't expecting you could put up a mind lock and keep mind readers away. You are very prepared. That's it! That's fucking it! That's why Lucario is just so fucking devoted to his trainer and so fucking great at fighting. He's a fucking Mary Sue. He is a total fucking Mary Sue. There's no 2 ways about it. He has no personality beyond devotion to Chris and occasionally gets angry. You know, I mean, of course, he's threatened him a couple of times, but, you know, I was exaggerating those for comedic effect. Comedic effect, because I'm such a funny guy. But seriously, he's a total fucking blank slate. He is a Mary Sue. I mean, Chris is more of a he's kind of... if anyone doesn't know, Mary Sue is just kind of like, you know, sort of one of those perfect characters you find in fan fictions. A lot like, whoa, you can do everything. Oh, that's amazing. You know... And that tends to just kind of be his rag, I've noticed. Lucario just is, there's nothing to him. He's just perfect, you know. He loves the main character, he's more of a, I mean, you know, let's face it, Aura Channeler Chris, the protagonist's called Chris, and it's a teenager. I think it's fair to say that he's pretty much writing about himself. And Lucario's just his good buddy who's coming here to save the day. I'm surprised I didn't notice this sooner, you know. It's you know, it's... It's kind of a bit, you know. Do you know? Who the fuck am I talking to?